Hi everybody, hello and welcome to this video and welcome to the live if you are watching via Facebook, and if not, welcome to whenever you're watching this. So I thought I'd make this video because on one of my fairy videos that I've made recently and I put up on YouTube, someone asked a very good question. A lovely lady asked, why would I want to contact fairies? She said, well, why would I want to connect with fairies? I've heard from myths, from folklore, from childhood, that fairies aren't very nice, that they often maybe want to kind of kidnap your children or will knock you over in the woods and chip you up, or at worst, just not really have a great intention towards humans. So that is a commonly held belief by a lot of people, and what I would say is, I'm going to go into this over the next half hour, 40 minutes or so, that I always question everything that we're told to avoid all that's bad, like witches, powerful women, fairies. If you're told they're bad, I would always double question it. Oh, my little fable, she went a bit involved actually, Ember, my lovely fable here, made by the gorgeous Emma Hamilton. She wanted to get involved with the video, but she's kind of a bit of taking a tumble. So do you want to go back there, Ember? Yeah, Ember's going to watch from behind. So thank you. Hello, Katrina. Good evening. Hello to everyone that's watching. Hello, Helen. Mwah. Good afternoon, Helen. Evening, Helen. Big hello to everyone. Thank you so much for watching this. And hello, Victoria, lovely, and Rob and everyone. So Gail, I want to say lots of hellos, and big love. And thank you for watching this video. So yes, point one, this is the overarching theme. I would just question everything that I'm told, especially when it comes to, oh, that's bad. Don't look at that. I'm like, really? Why would you want me not to look at that? Could it be empowering for me? But one thing I do talk a lot about in the course as well, well, not a lot, but I do mention in the course, is that not all that glitters is gold. And of course, there are some aspects of fairy which are not pro-human, and for understandable reasons. We came along, the last ones to the party called Earth, and kind of trashed the place. But there are a lot of fairies that do want to connect with us as well. So yeah, there are some fairies that do not want to have interest in humans, do not particularly like us. As in everything, we're not going to have everyone in the world love us. We're going to go somewhere, we're going to walk into a random place, and not everyone's going to gel with us. Some people will really want to be our friends, some people will really not have great intentions towards us, some just won't be bothered. And kind of as we go towards fairy, there is that aspect as well. So that's what I look a lot in the course about, connecting with fairy guides, connecting with fairy kings and queens, and connecting with the realm and the denizens of fairy that are interested in human interaction. And there are many different types of fairies that do want to connect with people and that do have love for people and have hope for people. And of course, there are lots of angry ones that feel frustrated and hurt as well. But as all the myths go, there are fairies that are wild and tricksy, and that maybe will drag us down to the bottom of the ocean because they don't know that we can't swim, or that will, get us lost in the moors. But if you really honour the fairy path and use your common sense and really tune in to what's going on around you, you can have some amazing, magical, powerful, transformative, enchanting connections with fairies. And I know that because I've been doing this for over 10 years and having those experiences. And as a whole, my positive experiences ridiculously, hugely outweigh the negative ones. And the only negative ones I've had, I've generally got the message really quickly that I'm not meant to be somewhere, that I'm not welcome. And so I respectfully back off. And as long as you've got your wits about you, you're open, you're not trying to arrogantly storm in on things and say, I am this and that, often you are generally okay. So I've written down 10 reasons to connect with fairy. Again, I'll be doing some questions if you would like to ask. The most important question has been asked: where did I get my little antlers? Very spiritual shop, Claire's Accessories. Yeah, I got them in I love them. Look how beautiful they are. They shine, they sparkle, and they headbands. Yeah, from Claire's Accessories last year. That's where I got them. So hello everybody, hello Rob, hello Simeon and more. Good afternoon, good afternoon. So do feel free. I'm going to go through my 10 reasons why you would connect with the fairy realm. But if you have any questions or things you want to add, please do in the comment box on Facebook, and I will look at them after or in between the points. I wrote the points down. I don't often write notes. I'm usually just talking, but I thought with listicles, I will forget something. So yes, all fairies don't want to talk to people. There are stories, and there is respect and honour. But if you go with that closed mind that, you know, that you shouldn't connect with fairies, they're going to be bad and they're going to not have your best interests at heart, then you're missing out on so much beauty. And that's what I want to talk about now. So reason number one of why you would want to connect with fairy is, the clues in the title, for connection. For connection with the fairy realm, for connection with nature, and also for connection with people. I'll talk about that in that order. So connection with the fairy realm, I can honestly say, has been one of the most beautiful, lovely, magical, and door opening, many doors opening experiences I've ever had. So when I started connecting with the fairy realm, when I started going to Three Wishes Fairy Fest about 10 or 11 years ago. And before that, I was very witchy, very Wiccan, pagan, lived in the middle of London though, and I hadn't really gone into the realm of fairy, but I was asked to write a review of the Three Wishes Fairy Fest. And I'm so grateful that Magic Weave, that I was sent there to review the Fairy Festival, because it changed my life, really. It did. It was in Cornwall, and to be in a space where there was this absolute wonderful connection, not only to the land in Cornwall, but workshops to connect with fairies. I learned to see fairies, how to tune the energy of fairies. And I came back from that weekend and I wanted to leave London and move to Cornwall. I mean, I've always wanted that, but I really was sure that I got as far as Glastonbury, which is more than fine. But it opened so much that I became aware of how to connect with the spirits of nature, or became re-aware of it. So yeah, for connection to the fairy realm, and to be able to see the fairies, see the energy, if not, to be able to sense that they're there in the flowers, in the waters, in the land. I cannot tell you, if you probably know, you've probably done it yourself, but if you haven't had that experience of feeling that energy, it is healing and magical and shows so much power and beauty in the world. It's a life changer, but it's also a big door opener to the other world. To have that connection with fairy is a blessing. It is such a blessing, and it's been healing for my heart, it's healing for my soul, and it's healing for just understand my path in life, understand why we're here, and to connect with nature in a deeper level. Isn't that beautiful, to have that connection, so that you can go outside and go, yep, my garden's nice, or the sea's beautiful, but you have that other layer that you go, your garden's nice, and you can tune in that there are fairies, there are elemental beings, spiritual aspects of nature at work, and that you can tune into them and feel them. That is wonderful. That is one of the loveliest reasons. So I've put that probably the most important first, is to have that connection with the fairy realm, with nature on a deeper level, even if you don't even want to go and see fairies or spend much time with it, just to know, and to I think you already know, that nature has its own magic and its beauty, and there's so much going on there in how a flower blossoms and how the trees blow in the wind in October, and at those different seasonal points of the year when nature is working or resting, and those times when fairy energy is really, really strong. And also, so it's part 3 of one point, because the people that I've met through starting my fairy path, so since I went to the fairy festival all those years ago, I have met the most beautiful people all over the world that I cherish as my friends, because they're awesome and I love them, but also because we're on the same wavelength, because that connection with fairy, they're clever things, those fairies. They open up not only to connection in the fairy realm, but to other people. The connection with fairy is a heartfelt connection. It's from here. So the people that are going to be drawn to fairy, even not all going to get on, there's going to be that heartfelt magic that will bring them together. So I've met some of the most awesome people who I'm more than privileged to call my friends because of my connection with fairy. So number 2 is remembrance. Our ancestors, not that long ago, it's written in folklore, would have in a daily or at least an understanding of connection with fairy. We know that because it's written down. Farmers and their wives put out plates of food for the fairies to hope that the harvest would be good. They'd give fairy plates. The idea of putting fairy plates, so not leftovers, but a little plate for the spirits of the land and for the fairies, is to bring blessings and positive energy into your life. You didn't want to annoy the fairy folk. And so there's so much folklore, whether it's been twisted or whether it's kind of come through in time really strongly. There's folklore, fairy tales, and even from sort of from the myths as well, tales of the shining ones, the ones who were not tiny fairies but bigger than human-sized fairies that went to dwell in the hollow hills when people changed and when the humans became as we are today. So they went into the hollow hills to the tales of house goblins and brownies and the ones that look after or mess up the house. So there's so many tales from fairy animals to, the fairy kings and queens, and what to do at Samhain when the procession of the fairies. There's so much Beltane folklore. Every festival and every celebration has a wealth of fairy folklore. So to remember, you don't actually have to go in towards connecting with fairies with a solid belief in them, but it is part of our folklore. It's part of remembering, the great remembering of who we are and where we've come from and the beautiful, powerful things we did. So you can come at this from a folkloric angle and not necessarily have to believe, but to be fascinated in the stories that are woven and the magic that is told about connection with fairy. And things like, even in Victorian, I always find like the times of greatest upheaval, the Victorian time with the Industrial Revolution, when things are leaping forward in huge ways with manufacturing and power and industry, that there's a heartfelt call out that the fairy folklore and belief and paintings and poetry was just so strong, because we all know in our hearts we're not machines that are here to make money. We know we've got to do that sometimes, but there's that calling, that knowing that magic and enchantment and beauty and power is there just past those misty hills. And now, at a time with great social and environmental upheaval, the fairy belief, or the fairy, even in fashion or in public interest, is so strong at the moment. So yeah, to remember that could just be one reason why you'd want to connect with fairies. And also to remember your childhood. Did you sit at the bottom of the garden looking for fairies? I did. Did you talk to imaginary friends who'd invite for tea, who'd be animals or fairies or magical beings? Did you watch films about fairy tale beings and believe them to be real? Yeah, so it could be connection with that innocence of childhood and that time when you believed that anything was possible. And that's what fairy can help us remember as well. Number three reasons why to connect with fairy as well. I'm going to love it. And before I go to number three, I'm going to see some comments before they go, because they often vanish off too quickly. And Adrian says, hello, Adrian. Hello, hope you're well. Says, the Goddess Awakening was awesome. I'm just finishing off now. Thank you, Adrian. And thank you for all your input into Goddess Awakening as well. You were absolutely awesome. And then we've got Annette saying, I think the Fae are guides of the wild places and of wild animals. I totally agree with that, my lovely. Have you been to Sherwood Forest? Not since I was a child. I would love to go back. That's on the list, to go back to Sherwood, because I lived in sort of Leicester, which was nearish Nottingham when I was little. So thank you for your comments. I'm going to go back to my number three, enchantment. That is why you would want to connect with fairy. Reason number three, because 9 to 5 and EastEnders, and no offense EastEnders, I don't like it. No offense if you do. Paying bills, which I needed to do, all the things that I need to do in life that we do, that we get on with, that will just kill our soul if we just feel that's all there is. Fairy brings enchantment. There's an energy of connecting with fairy which is so powerful. It transforms, it heals, it brings magic, enchantment and wonder back into our life in ways that are really hard to put into words, but you can feel them. So if you've ever been to anywhere like St Nettons Glen in Cornwall, places like Glastonbury, places that have strong fairy connection. You may have places you go to like Sherwood Forest, some magical woodlands, some wells, where you just feel, wow, there is something really special here. It transforms you and you go into that world, you go into that beauty. It's a portal into magic and nature. So it brings enchantment into our lives. And it's really important, in my belief, to connect with fairy realm, to connect with nature, however you want to call it, quite often to keep that magic alive within us. So enchantment is also the muse. It can inspire us. Now, did I have the muse as one of my reasons? I think I should probably put that in as well. Well, maybe the muse goes in with enchantment, because fairies inspire art. They inspire poetry, writing. My lovely friend Anna McKerrow, who you might see on my YouTube channel, has released a book today called Daughter of Light and Shadows. And she just said this herself, so I can say it, that the book came to her while doing my Fairy Awakening course. So the fairy kings and the fairies started speaking to her, and the ideas came in while she was immersing in fairy, doing my Fairy Awakening course last year. So as an endorsement, if you want to write a book, do my course. I am joking. But fairies inspire art. They inspire things you weren't expecting to do. So you can connect with the fairy realm and your creativity could take off in a different direction. Or you may end up painting, writing, creating something that's really, wow, that wasn't what I was expecting. And you go off in a totally different direction. Or it enriches and deepens your art. And art in any way, whatever you do, it could be any kind of creative, even inspiration for, I don't know, other things of creativity. Fairies are fabulous. They are the muses. They do bring inspiration to you. And if you want to have that connection to the fairy realm, it can really bring in some wonderful, hugely exciting new directions or opportunities to create. So fairy muses have been forever, linked with art. Liane and She, which was meant to be the fairy muse, which kind of inspired wildly an artist or poet, and then sucked their blood and sucked their life force, and then they passed away. But that could, that's not a great example because that's the way it's been said, but that myth is very prevalent, and it kind of has it in the starving artist thing anyway, doesn't it? That it kind of explains the wildfire of a lot of artists, that they live wildly, they burn brightly, but then some things, it hasn't always been great. My experience of the fairies of muses has not been that. It's been this beautiful energy of connection which helps them. They don't want you to end up drained of energy, because the longer you're going, the more connection you can create. So fairies have always been muses to open humans. Hello Rosanna, hello Nina, hello Michelle. I love to leave offerings everywhere this time of year, even the cemeteries. I think it's a brilliant time to leave offerings in the cemeteries, in the 70s, about to say, the cemeteries. Hello Michelle, hope you're really well, lovely. So yes, the enchantment, that even if you're not someone that's that feels really creative, there's way that you'll see the world which will be different through connection with fairy, and it will be bringing magic. That's my belief anyway. You might find it differently, but it brings magic. Number 4, rewilding. Yes, rewilding. So it's a big word, isn't it, at the moment? We're all kind of in that space of feeling the urge and living that reality to get back to nature, to bring back our inner wildness. Like I keep mentioning this, we are not money-making machines. We are not kind of one-dimensional, get on with it, get on with your work, come home, do the thing. We are not just that, and we know that, of course we do. But the fairies can really help us ignite our wild soul, ignite the passions that may have been muted, because it can be really hard to be a fully wild, awesome, powerful woman or man, and and look at the world around you and go, this is what I'm living in. But there is such power and beauty and healing to the most massive degree in rewilding, in connecting with nature and being out there, in feeling the cycles of the land and the year, and to live in a way which is more in tune with nature, to be more comfortable with our bodies, to be more comfortable with being out there in the wilds, understanding how to be there and understand the nature of the trees and the plants, to understand how to, you know, survive in these situations, or to go out on the moors, to be really in tune with our emotions and the tides of the sea and the moon. All these things the fairies do help us to connect with, to be more at one with the nature. We are nature. We are not separate from nature, but we've made ourselves very much, push ourselves into a corner away from all the things in nature that would make us feel healthy and wild and happy and live our true lives, so that it can help us bring in contact with our passions, get the blood flowing in our veins, to feel happy, inspired because we've had a day out in the woods and we've really connected with the trees, to go for those dips in the sea when it's freezing, to laugh blooming loudly, to cry with all our hearts, to feel so deeply, and to know that it's okay, because this is us and we are truly full in our being because we're connecting and expressing ourselves. So no going, I'm fine, I'm fine. No, fuck that. If you're not fine, you're not fine. So to express actually how we truly feel, not to be ashamed of that to connect with fairy, because they are not, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. They are themselves. I've done this in other videos, 100%. They are themselves, and they are surfing on the waves of their own energy and their own power. And they don't have that human morality or restrictions that we have. They have their own boundaries and their own rules, but they're very much emotionally powerful and free. And maybe again, that's the reason why the Victorians went for them, because they were in a place where emotions and being really constricted, and we still have that now in Victorian ways, but in other ways I think we're still very constricted. And so to express ourselves fully, to be ourselves, to know our own emotions. I read this terrible study that people often said they only had 3 or 4 emotions, you know, happy, sad, angry. Yeah, it's terrifying. The emotional literacy, really. So to understand the depth of our emotions, the oceans of ourselves, the fires that burn, you know, so much. So rewilding covers all of those things and more. And moving on from rewilding, number 5 is empowerment. So empowerment comes from, I guess, all of the following: from connecting, from remembering, from being inspired, enchanted, and for being really at one with our own wild selves and with the world. That can only bring empowerment. It can bring a bit of a oh my god, an awakening. When they say awakening, when I say awakening, it always sounds so lovely, but you know, I think we all know our spiritual awakenings have been at sometimes pretty fierce, pretty raw, pretty drastic, and there's beauty that's come out of it. But to get to empowerment, we go through so many awakenings and so many, you know, shake-ups. So empowerment comes because connecting with fairy, you know, they want to know us. We've got to come open and sovereign and aligned and not showing off, but not hiding and saying, oh no, don't worry about me, I'll be in the corner somewhere. But we have to turn up, we have to show up. And by doing all these things, by being out in nature, by connecting and feeling, we cannot help but to be empowered and inspired in life. Number 6, daily wonder. So to connect with fairy brings daily wonder in the smallest things. I'm so happy with tiny little events in life sometimes, the small things, you know, that makes me happy, it makes me giggle. And to be in connection with fairy, we see the wonder in the smallest things, as well as in the depth of the huge things that happen to us. So to be happy, you know, when you're going through like a poopy time, and you can look at your garden or your balcony and go hello to the fairies, to go, wow, look at how beautiful that flower looks, look at how wonderful the mist is around that hill, you know, just to be able to see those blessings, daily wonder and daily blessings. I always speak every morning. I get up and I say my blessings for the day, no matter how I'm feeling, and even if things are going on and I'm worried about them, it's that moment of knowing there's more, of all there is, a bit more. So you can't help but notice the lights at twilight, or the movement in a hedgerow, or the feeling of not being alone in a nice way when you're in the woodlands. So that feeling of daily wonder and daily blessings is the most lovely way to see the light in a crystal, or to see, to feel with your heart this fairy energy around. This is lovely. And daily wonder and daily blessings, I think, is one of the nicest reasons to connect with fairy, because it brings those moments of highlights to our day out of the simplest things that are free. You know, they're not costing you anything, they're not bad for you. You know, you can have those daily blessings that will uplift your mood as a whole, because you're looking and seeing the good things around you. So number 7 is building soulful relationships with the fairy realm. That, we're going a bit deeper now. You know, the last 3 are a bit more about if you're really on that fairy path, you connect with the fairy, you connect with the fairy guides. You have your own fairy guide that you work with, that takes you on journeys, that shows you where is safe to go in fairy, and gives you guidance to move forward in your life, and shows you what you need, either through meditation, through journeying, through ritual, ceremony, or dream. And building relationships with this fairy, with a fairy guide, and connecting then with fairy kings and queens, or elves, or maybe the spirits of the animals, you know, the wild animals, or the wild places, like someone said earlier. The more we connect with fairy, the more we speak to specific fairies, our guides, or maybe the spirits of place, leaving little offerings for the spirits of place in your garden or in your home. It becomes powerful, it becomes rich, it imbues your life and your fairy connection with so much more. And to have those connections therefore enriches you and empowers you. You're not going, oh my God, I'm this human in this situation, what am I going to do? You're like, okay, right, here's my tools in my toolbox, here's what's going on, here's my fairy guides, here's my cat, here's my cat's bottom, here's my fairy guides that are going to come and help, and that are going to come and share their wisdom and share their knowledge and give me some guidance. And when you feel you're going for walks in nature and you're out and about, you have that companionship. So you're building relationships which are really positive, that will help you. And of course, like all friendships and relationships, will help the fairies as well. But that's going more on to the last point, actually. But to build those relationships, I think, is really special, really important, and really a big benefit, I think, to day-to-day life. And then number 8, to be part of the living myth of the land. So centuries of myth and folklore. Some of it's recorded, some of it's lost. Places like Glastonbury, where I live, is full of myth, ever-growing myth and ancient myth. Places like Cornwall in England, I'm only telling places that I know really well. It's full of myth of King Arthur. It's full of the myths of the mermaids and the spirits of the Moors. And here, the dragons of the Tor. And King Arthur as well is here as well. You know, Morgan Le Fay, Guinevere. Lots and lots of myths of the land. Even Jesus is known to have visited Glastonbury as well, and Mary Magdalene. So when you connect with fairy, you become part of the story. You become part of the living myth of the land. You go to their sacred places and you see the story, you feel the story, and it continues. It is not saved for books from the past. You are part of this fairy story. You are part of this living myth. You're creating and you're inspiring the next generation. So to keep your own journals, to keep your experiences and to share them, to talk to the fairies, to go to these sacred spaces and to feel their energy, you are creating, continuing and inspiring that living myth in the land, which I think is a really beautiful and important thing. Maybe healing the land as well. Because what we'll often do when we go to these places and connect with them is we'll get feelings, we'll get messages of what we need to do as well. So it's not just about asking for things for ourselves, we get impressions and healings about what we should do to help the land and help the fairies. Let's check some questions before you are welcome to ask questions, by the way. Hello, all these lovely people. I've got 2 more points that I'm going to say, and then feel free to ask if you would like. But we were just on point number 8, being part of the living myth of the land, which I think is a really nice way of thinking of things. Number 9. So the last 2, as I mentioned, we're getting more into deeper fairy connection. And so for those that were just kind of dipping a toe in the water, the first ones are really lovely. For you guys who are more experienced on the fairy path and want to go deeper, number 9 is harmony between the realm of fairy and the realm of humans. So in the past, as we've mentioned, and in folklore, the veil between the worlds was maybe thinner. Connection with fairy, between humans and fairy, was maybe much stronger. And as we've kind of gone into industry and technology and mass farming and not really connecting with the fairy realm and almost working against it, well, obviously working against it in many ways, cutting down forests, that relationship has parted. And yet, there are many fairy beings who wish or who have hope to connect with humans, to build a relationship between humans and fairies, so that we can maybe save the land, the spirit of the land, and to not kill off nature and kill off the magic. And nature will always win, but to lessen the damage that we're doing at the moment. So the fairies, as it's been said, spirits of the wild places, spirits and guardians of the land. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's some that really do not want to know about humans. It's like, go away. But there's many, many, many that do, really many. And harmony between these beings of the fairy realm and beings of humans will create more balanced land, in my opinion anyway. It's just my thoughts in general. So the more people that are in harmony with themselves, because of rewilding, empowerment means more harmony with themselves, more harmony with nature, which obviously helps, but then more harmony with fairies as well, meaning that the fairy realm and human realm may be able to connect more on a deeper level again in the future, like they once did, and maybe in new ways. Which brings me to my last point, and this is what came through from the fairies actually, for the future, to move forwards. We need to create a better way of being as humans and as custodians of this planet on a very practical way. And to connect with the fairy realm can show us ways of healing ourselves hugely. And I'm saying it has to happen here first. It's hard to save the planet if we're tortured inside, as within, so without. So when we're struggling and, we create awfulness because we're in pain here, and it reflects with kind of chaos outside, which reflects back inwards, and etc., etc. So to move forwards, to connect with fairy, to create a world which has more balance, has more harmony, has more magic, and is healthier for not only us, but for the fairy realm and nature as well. So this is for the next generations. This is for, even if you don't believe in fairy, to be, even if we're talking about this and you don't believe in fairy, you can't really, well, you could if you wanted to, but it'd be hard to argue that being more empowered, more aligned, more at one, more inspired, more comfortable with ourselves, more connected with nature is really going to help the future, the next generation. And I'm adding the fairy concept there, that it can help both realms, the fairy realm and our realm, to really bring in a new era that would be magic and empowerment and health for the land. Then it's all good, really, isn't it? So all these things add up to creating a more positive and powerful future for ourselves and for the fairy realm and for nature and for the natural world. So I hope you enjoyed my 10 points of how to connect with fairy. I'll just go with them again. For connection, for remembrance, for enchantment, for rewilding, empowerment, for daily wonder, for living, for being part, the next one, for 7, building relationships. Number 8, for being part of the living myth of the land. 9, harmony between humans and fairies. And 10, to move forwards to create a more positive, healthy and powerful future. So that's just 10, possibly many reasons of why to connect with fairy. Yes, there's a reason to start off with, that maybe they're not all going to be nice to us. Yeah, that's true of anyone though, isn't it? You can go to a different country and there's be a chance some people might not be nice to you. But if you go wised up, with respect, with a good guidebook, with a friend that can show you around, you're generally going to have an amazing time, discover new things, discover new wonder, and enrich your life. So I think enrichment, joy, and laughter are things I'd like to add to that list. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you would like to find out more about Fairy Connection, Fairy Awakening, my course does start on Monday, the 22nd of October. It's a 7-week course, and we go deep into the fairy realm in so many different ways over this course. We go through meditations, journeying, stories, worksheets, crafting. We have videos and lots of projects to get on with. It's a really beautiful way, and I've put on my page some things people said about the Fairy Awakening course. If you'd like to join, would love to see you there. I'd like to spend your autumn time, or spring if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, really connecting to a deeper level with fairy. Then come join me at Fairy Awakening. Check out my website, all the W's, LauraDalligan.com. We start on Monday, so come and join. If you have your own points of how you like to connect with fairy, do put them in the comments. I won't be able to, when I'm not live, I won't be able to talk about them, but I will try my best to reply to them. So if you have your ways of why you feel you like to connect with the fairy realm, then I would love to hear from you. So thank you so much for watching, for my 10 reasons to connect with the fairy realm. And I hope it's inspired you to have, at the very least, a bit more of wonder in your day-to-day life when you look at some flowers, some trees, the ocean, a fire dancing, whatever it is. To find that wonder and magic in the day-to-day life is a fairy blessing indeed. Thank you for watching, guys. Mwah, much love, and I'll see you all really soon. Bye.